Lady was the best cowboy in town. She could ride and bulldog cattle and shoot like a man and so forth and so forth. So finally she got old and died, and then they found out, hey, old Charlie was Charlene. She was a woman. Boy, was she one tough day.
Girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world. It's up and all. La 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 la. Well, I left home just a week before, and I'd never ever kissed a woman before. But all the smile took me by the hand and said, "Little boy, gonna make you a man." Well, I'm not the world's most masculine man, but I know what I am in the bed.
Good morning. Hello. It's good to see you all. Welcome to this week's production of Communication and Aging, brought to you by KSLP and Tannisbourne Radio. This is Nikki and your hosts,
Sierra, Allie,
Aaron,
and Sarah.
How is everyone this morning?
Good, the coffee's hot and we have a great show today.
Was John hilarious or what? He and his wife BJ were so cool.
you know, it's pretty interesting to think about such a current progressive issue such as homosexuality in our society today, and to be able to access the same issue through the eyes of people who have witnessed and in some ways experienced it throughout the years.
Right. I mean, I think I know what gay looks like today through experiences that I share with others in my generation, but it was such a unique opportunity to be able to explore this as far back as 60 or even 80 years. It really gives evolution a whole new meaning. A few women at Terwilliger Plaza, a retirement community in Portland, had this to say about gay visibility way back when.
When I was in high school, I had no idea about gays or lesbians because it was a small high school in Coos Bay, Oregon. And whether we had any in our community, I don't know.
So it was never discussed?
Never, the word never came up.
Yeah. I didn't have any personal experience in my family. Hasn't come up in my family, and I'm sure that there are people around who wouldn't have dealt with it well. But certainly by the time I got to college, there was no question. But that was,
Yeah, and see, I had absolutely no experience, knowing anyone with that where I grew up, and that was, on the farm, a country girl I was. And they just,
And I grew up in a small town also, and I'm sure that there were gay people around, but it wasn't visible.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I left and went away to school
so that you knew
that it became visible to me, and at that point, it didn't make any difference because I hadn't been instilled with any prejudice about it.
People have said to me, well, did you realize your son was gay before? And I just have always had some idea of a spectrum of extreme male qualities to extreme female qualities, and everybody's somewhere along that.
I just can't remember when I even was aware of the fact that there were gay people. I grew up in a small town, and I look back now, and there were people who weren't married that possibly could have been gay, but nobody ever said anything about it, and I didn't even realize that there was such a thing until I don't know, several years ago, quite a few years ago, when it came to light.
I guess I wasn't really surprised to hear the gay community was relatively invisible in the day. However, Marge, who has a gay daughter, had interesting things to say, being someone who actually experienced the very thing that so many people didn't even know existed.
Like you say, it was not something that they wanted to hear, I guess, or even be associated with, even knowing.
You're saying in your community? Is this what you're saying? Or where did you find the most resistance amongst your community?
Yeah, right. The community, the people that you knew, and that just was just not something that they didn't talk about it, basically.
Right, so that's what I was wondering. So how did you feel the resistance? Is it because did you find that all of a sudden people were avoiding you or her, or they were talking about you, or you were hearing these little
just
things?
Avoiding, pretty much.
Wow.
And, or you would hear just kind of through what I want to say, the grapevine kind of
Right.
thing that people, you know, that people were saying different things. And I thought, you know, that's too bad that you don't know some of these people because they're fantastic people.
So Sarah and Nikki, I have to imagine you must be glad that you weren't around for those days. Yikes. Needless to say, we've come a long way, but just like Jane said, there's plenty more to be done. Let's see what has been done.
I thought it was interesting in the news lately, this Methodist minister who married his son and partner, you know, is now being supposedly maybe kicked out of the Methodist church.
For marrying his son and...
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that's terrible. We have some gay men in our church, and the one couple, they're now elders, which I think is really great.
Wow, that's really encouraging to hear, because I know a lot of people in the community who struggle with being openly gay with this generation, whether it be with their grandparents or otherwise.
That's too bad.
It is too bad. So how do you feel being on the other side of that?
I feel sorry for anybody who can't stay up with the times. Maybe that's not the right thing, but I just feel like, you know, I'm not expressing it very well, but I want to be tolerant of everybody else, and maybe you don't do the things the right way that I would like to do them, you know, but I'm still going to be tolerant of you and oh, I'm tired.
Well, not judgmental and not...
Yeah, not judgmental.
Yeah,
Right,
not
right.
aiming for, you know.
Right.
So, learning this, I wonder, have you two always held that acceptance of the gay community, or is this something that you've grown to accept? I don't know, through your experiences over the years, you've become more open and accepted that people identify this way, that they have different sexuality? Or is this something, how is this different from the perception you had perhaps when you were younger, or the way you were raised?
Well, probably you have a better comment on that.
Definitely, because I used to consider a gay guy as being queer, different, and unbelievable almost, and weird, and I didn't want to have anything to do with him. Just oddball, queer. And that's what they were called, queers, and all kinds of other foul names. And over the years, I've come to realize that, well, there's just a certain population that is different. And apparently they're born that way, which I didn't know what to do with mentally, but now I've come to accept the fact that that's the way it is. They can't help it, they're born that way. And good God, I'm just plain glad that I wasn't born that way, because what a difficult life.
Yeah.
Persecuted to the point of some of them being beat to death, etc. So there's been acceptance on my part. It's part of nature. And why? Nobody knows, apparently. But since it's nature, okay, I can accept nature. No more problem.
Gotta love some Gaga. Wow, what a day. It's so refreshing to have stereotypes and assumptions torn apart, especially amongst a population that encompasses so many.
Personally, for me as a lesbian, this was so refreshing to have such an open conversation, especially with this generation.
On all fronts, really. This whole show has been such an awakening in the light of an ongoing controversy. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you same time, same place next week.
And until then, stay young at heart.
Signing out from KSLP and Tannisborn Radio.
My hearing aid is telling me I need new batteries.